People that have cancer, what were the symptoms that led you to go to the doctor and what stage were you when it was diagnosed? Work buddy suddenly said, "Yo man, your neck looks fat." Me going, "WTF man, that's so rude." Him going, "No really, it looks fatter than before." Me going, "WTF man, that's like a double-edged insult." Him going, "No really bro, maybe you should see a doc or something." So I did. Thyroid cancer. Work bro caught it at stage 0. Didn't even need chemo. Docs just removed the gland. On lifelong thyroxine, but that's the best outcome really. Work bro and I still keep in contact 15 years later. He saved you. My friend's thyroid almost killed her. We just thought she had gained some weight, but we've looked at photos from back then and her neck doesn't match her body. I look at everyone's neck now. My symptoms were a feeling of fullness in my bottom when sitting down and bright red blood in my stool when wiping. I was 40 years old at the time and visited my doctor right away. She dismissed it as hemorrhoids. Within 2 months, my stools had changed shape and I started to lose weight. I reached back out to my doctor who referred me to a gastroenterologist. From onset of my symptoms to when I was able to finally see a specialist was 6 months. They ordered a colonoscopy but it was initially denied by my health insurer. My GI doctor appealed and had to move the procedure to a hospital before it was approved. The day of my colonoscopy I had lost 45 pounds since first seeing my doctor 6 months before. When I woke up from the colonoscopy, my gastroenterologist told me they found a 7 cm mass that was likely cancer. They took biopsies, and a couple of days later those were confirmed as malignant. I had blood work and a series of imaging over the next month and was eventually diagnosed with stage 4 rectal cancer with metastasis to the pelvic organs, lungs, and 1 adrenal gland. This was in May 2025. I'm almost through with my first phase of treatment, 8 rounds of FOLFOXIRI chemotherapy. I start round 7 tomorrow and should finish round 8 the first week of November. My following treatment after that will be 25 to 35 rounds of chemoradiation. As of today, no cancer DNA can be detected in my blood, my primary tumor is now undetectable through imaging, and all my metastasized nodes have shrunk by more than 50%. My son had colorectal cancer at 27 that spread to his liver and lungs, so stage 4. But he has been cancer-free for 7 years now. You've got this. I've noticed that with metastatic colon cancer, it always goes to the liver and lungs. My mom had the exact same thing. I'm glad your son is doing okay. Oh, I can explain this. The blood leaving the colon goes to the liver first, then onto to the heart, and then into the lungs. This means most colon cancer cells that are carried in the blood get deposited in the liver and the lungs. They don't get deposited in the heart because there's too much movement for them to settle there. I love it when I see comments like this. With all of the negativity I read on Reddit, maybe I need to find different subreddits. Haha, it's so nice when I see something that shows the power we have in community. Shortness of breath and low energy. I thought that it was a resurgence of asthma that I had as a child. Turns out that I felt that way because my body was severely low on hemoglobin. Pesky leukemia had replaced 92% of my bone marrow with cancer. That was 18 months ago. Been in full remission since January. Don't recommend. Damn man. Hope that remission keeps on going. Sounds so fucking scary. You're still here though, internet friend. I'm going to speak on behalf of my sisters, Charlotte and Connie, who are no longer here. My middle sister Connie was a non-smoker, married, had just bought her first home, and waited tables at a restaurant chain. She had 2 children. She had a dry, nagging cough, went to the doctor, got a chest x-ray and was told everything looked good. Cough continued, so 3 months later, she went back. This time, she was diagnosed with stage 3 lung cancer. She had a lobectomy, such heavy doses of chemo I thought she'd die from it. Proceeded to have scans every couple of months, holding our breath in between results. 1 year later, metastasized to her brain. Surgery to remove what they could of a tumor in her frontal lobe, followed by radiation. 6 weeks later, tumor is back and bigger than before. My sister says, no more, she passed away at home at age 42. Her little girl was only 5. My little sister Charlotte was married, had a grown daughter, was living comfortably and enjoying her life. She'd been through hip surgery recently but was in otherwise excellent health. She was in great shape, had a swimming pool and used it frequently. One day she noticed a discharge from her left nipple. She dismissed it as an irritation from too much chlorine in the pool. Thanks to my grandmother, who was a breast cancer survivor who kept on her about getting checked, she was diagnosed with breast cancer. She had a mastectomy and began chemotherapy. After treatment was completed, she went for checkups. 5 years passed and she was considered cured. Then, she was diagnosed with a brain aneurysm, most likely aided by the damage done to her veins by chemo. My little sister died on the operating table at the age of 52. I miss them every day. Please get checked. About a year before I was diagnosed, I had a sharp pain in my hip so bad it left me doubled over. It only lasted a couple seconds, and only lasted once, so I didn't follow up. During a pre-op for an unrelated surgery, my doctor found a lump in my breast. She sent me for a mammogram, they kept me for a biopsy, and I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And the hip pain? That was a tumor setting up shop in my hip. My cancer is metastatic. I'm no evidence of disease as of June, and I'm enjoying it as much as I can. A sudden and complete bowel obstruction one day. I knew what it was, I was a nurse, and went to the ED right away. They did scans and I had surgery that night. I already had stage 4 bowel cancer. The only symptom prior to that was some very mild constipation that I had put down to not drinking enough water. This was in May 2022. I'm still here, happy with every day. Edit. I hope this is a warning to others to be aware that any bowel changes can be a sign of something serious, so please see a doctor. This includes constipation that lasts more than a few weeks, blood in your stool, abdominal pain with cramping or bloating, unexplained weight loss, stools that are narrower than normal, or a feeling that you can't fully empty your bowel. Bowel cancer is on the rise, especially in young people. Be aware of the signs and ask for a colonoscopy if you have symptoms. Don't let a doctor tell you you are too young. Look up the stats. Sorry for the long story in advance, but it still feels kind of unbelievable even though it happened to me, so I've gotten used to over-explaining. I was starting to get a little dizzy every time I would stand up. I was 50-ish, so that didn't seem alarming as much as annoying. It kept getting a little bit worse over the course of a week, but I kept ignoring it thinking I was just tired since it wasn't happening when I was sitting, or standing, only in the process of standing up. But on day 6 it started causing me to hear my pulse in my ears when I got dizzy. I wrote to my PCP to ask if this was urgent or should I make a regular appointment. The next day the pulse evolved into temporary hearing loss, and my eyesight started fading. I went to the ER. I walked in and asked to see someone. Nurse looked at me and said, "Wow, you look pale. I think we need you to skip the line. Come with me." Drew blood for urgent labs. We chatted for like 10 minutes while they ran them. My hemoglobin was 4.0 g/dl, which is so low for someone who can walk and talk that they thought the lab made an error. Normal value is roughly 14.5 and a 7.0 will usually get you urgent transfusion. They drew more blood. Came back 3.8. Nurse said she had never seen anyone come in with that low a number who hadn't been shot, not to mention walked in and seemed lucid. I immediately got a room and had 8 pints of blood transfused back to back just to get me up to 8.0, I'm 6 feet 5 inches and a bit overweight. Sent me off to get a CT and find out why I was bleeding. Turns out I had a rare form of pancreatic cancer. It had grown from the tail of my pancreas, into and around my spleen and was heading towards my stomach. It had blocked up enough blood vessels that I had more than a dozen that were bulging and could burst any minute. One of them had, into my stomach, and I had been digesting my own blood for more than a week. All told, they think I lost something like 80% of my blood supply without really realizing anything was seriously wrong. After all was said and done, my tumor turned out to be 19 centimeters, but had somehow not metastasized. The surgery to remove it included taking my spleen, and 2/3 of my pancreas, along with a few dozen lymph nodes, all of which were clear of any tumor cells. I asked the doctor to take a picture of what he removed just for my own morbid curiosity. He showed me the next morning. It was a little over 2.5 pounds and looked like a small pork roast. I sent that picture to my fantasy football chat asking what type of barbecue rub I should put on it. So, felt dizzy every time I stood up for a week, had a massive stage 3 pancreatic tumor. Lost most of my blood supply without realizing it, and paid a surgeon for some rapid weight loss. Warning, it's gory, and literally NSFL, but some of you sick bastards wanted to see. Also more yellow/dark than I remembered, so it is actually the size of a small roast, but on reflection looks less like one than I thought it did. Also, I never saw it in person, it was off to pathology for sampling before I ever woke up. Even more crazy is my oncologist story. She had a random pain in her breast. Labs looked good. Mammogram was normal. She saw a bunch of other docs that also said it was nothing. She just couldn't shake the feeling that it was cancer. So she pressed for a biopsy, but then something told her to just get both removed, so she ended up having an elective double mastectomy. Cancer in both breasts that she caught early. She is so amazing. If I so much as say my eye is twitching, she says, "Do you want a scan? Let me send you to the best eye doctor I know. Let's do this." I got super lucky. I was laying on the couch, 17 years old, and realized I was rubbing a lump on my back. I went and showed my dad. He and my mother were divorced, and by chance he was renting the master bedroom out to a nurse. He walked me down the hall, knocked on her door and had her feel it. She said it felt hard and I should get it checked out. The next week I was in a doctor's office. Less than a week after that I was getting it removed. 2 weeks later, they removed the stitches, and at that point they still didn't know what it was. 3 labs failed to determine it. It had to be sent out of state, where finally it was identified as a very rare and aggressive soft tissue sarcoma that kills 60% of the people that get it. They don't even screw around with chemo, they go straight to surgery and amputations. I had a second wide excision surgery up my spine, over 24 stickers, all for an original 2 centimeters ball, to remove the surrounding area. Everything came up clear and we basically caught it before it spread because we rented a room to a nurse. If my parents weren't divorced, I would probably be dead.